hands together as we welcome Uzaifa on board.
Thank you very much. And without further ado, I would like to straight away, yes. So, Ahlan wa sahlan, addressing you from Dubai, and we hope to see all of you in Dubai also very soon. So as all of you are settling down, and first of all, I would like to thank Professor Adebayo and AXA Global for this excellent opportunity for addressing this august audience of certified chartered system accountants. Now, as system accountants, you are, so to say, controlling the systems of your organization. There are so many things which are there in your hands, and in today's digital world, on your tip of your fingers, that there is a lot of impact that you can have. And I congratulate Professor Adebayo for selecting a very, very excellent topic, maximizing opportunities in a digital age. And yes, it is a digital age. It is the age of innovation. It is the age of knowledge. Okay. And even more so after, in today's post-COVID scenario, the importance of digital world is even more profound. All the people who have been into digital business, they have done very, very well in this last 2 years. And digital engagement has not only quadrupled, it's exponentially grown. With this overall theme in mind, that how do we maximize opportunities in a digital world, I'm going to give you a few tidbits. Okay, we just have 60 minutes. And the topic which has to be given to me is vast, doing business in the United Arab Emirates. I'm going to focus on the key guidelines and safeguards, what you need to do as far as doing business in the United Arab Emirates is concerned. I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty. This is how you get a license, and this is the license fees, and this is normal. You can just Google and you can find it. Okay, I'm going to give you from the practical perspective certain insights. I am an accountant by profession. Okay, so I deal with numbers, but I have gone beyond the accounting profession and gone more into the system side of it, the procedural side of it, to look at how we can leverage systems to maximize value in an organization. That is what we do in our consulting work. We help organizations rise to the next level. Before we come into doing business in the UAE, and I'm sure many of you have already visited the UAE, and you know, I have a rough idea about what the UAE is, but I will just give you a brief preview. Many people don't, for many people, when you say UAE, they think Dubai. Look at it geographically. This is the map of the UAE. The capital of the UAE is Abu Dhabi. Okay, Abu Dhabi is the capital of the UAE, but the financial capital of UAE is Dubai. That is why the finance and the trade capital is Dubai. That is why Dubai is so much more well known in the trade circles. But geographically, if you see in terms of area, the Abu Dhabi is a city also, and Abu Dhabi is an emirate also. Abu Dhabi is so huge. See the size of Abu Dhabi, and Dubai is comparatively smaller. Then you have Sharjah, Al Quwain, Ajman, Ras Al Khaimah, Fujairah. These are smaller emirates, okay, which have their own contribution in their own way into the economy. So it's very important for you to understand the geographical outlook. Okay, the population is just less than 10 million. Just less than 10 million. Okay, so the population of the country is not very high. If you compare it to the country like Nigeria, it's like one of your cities. Okay, this is the male-female ratio. Okay, so you can see that the male ratio is substantially high. The reason for this is that you have lots of lower income group expatriate workers who are employed here in the UAE, and they are staying here without their families. That is the reason for the high, it's almost double the female ratio, right? By Emirates, here you see the difference, that if you look at by Emirates, the highest population is in Dubai. Geographically, Abu Dhabi is the largest, but by population, Dubai is the first, which is crossing or reaching almost 3.5 million. Okay, almost 3.5 million Dubai is reaching. Then you have Abu Dhabi, which is 1.5, Sharjah, which is 1.73 million, and then the other Emirates. In Dubai, the manpower is there maximum. Abu Dhabi is very cash rich. They have got a lot of oil wealth. So that definitely makes a difference. There's a lot of oil wealth in Abu Dhabi, and there a lot of economic activity arising out of oil is happening there. Okay. The large percentage of population, there is barely 12% of the population is the local UAE nationals. 88% of the population are expatriates. Indians, Pakistanis, Egyptians, Filipinos, and then a host of other nationalities. So there's a large proliferation that this country is primarily run by the expatriates. Run in the sense they are the economic drivers, but the rulers obviously are the Emiratis. The people in positions of power in the government are the local Emiratis, and they decide matters of national interest. Okay, and now we are talking of the digital age. So look at the extent of social media users in UAE. So you have 87% of the people are on YouTube, 80% are on WhatsApp, 79% are on Facebook. So this is the extent of digital reach, okay, which is sometimes I will say, considering the extent of the UAE, it is less. That yes, I would look at it in the other way around, that there are 20% of people who are not on WhatsApp. It's surprising that still there are 20%, even in the place like UAE, there are 20% who are not on WhatsApp. So it is a bit of a surprising aspect here, that so maybe there are maybe farm workers or laborers who still are away from WhatsApp. So that element is there. To give you a perspective, before I go into the nitty-gritty, okay, is look at it why UAE is the country for you to come in today. UAE will get a new digital only bank. Just give me a minute. I have a bit of a technical problem here. Just give me a minute. I will just 1 minute. Let me just sort out this technical issue. Just give me a minute. Sorry about that. We are discussing digital age, but in the digital age also we have certain problems. There was some connectivity issue. I said before it disconnected, let me sort it out. Now, see, this is few months back, April. UAE used to get the world's first digital only bank. There is no bank in the world which is only digital. So it is the first digital bank to offer retail and corporate services. This is the extent of innovation which is happening in the UAE. Okay. This is an article of just 2 days back of October 11th. Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum is the Crown Prince of Dubai. And he has launched something known as the Dubai Future Solutions Initiative, which sets up a landscape, a platform for innovators to test their ideas within Dubai's innovation ecosystem. And Dubai is very, very high. They want to take a position on the global innovation map. So Dubai Future Foundation has already been in existence. Under Dubai Future Foundation, they have formed an initiative called Dubai future solutions, which will bring together scientists, designers, inventors, universities, research centers, companies, startups from around the world. These type of initiatives have been taken in Dubai. I remember just before COVID in 2019, and this few days down the road, the GITEX is going to start. GITEX is one of the world's largest computer networking and exhibition events. In GITEX, we have something known as the Future Stars competition. One of the winners in the innovation in the AI and robotics category in 2019 was from Nigeria. And there was a large Nigerian presence there. So we do see that Nigerian innovators also are making an impact in this area. And these type of solutions, this type of infrastructure which has been set up for you, it gives you an excellent opportunity to come and give vent to your creative talent. And it's not only that, they are giving rewards worth $10 million to selective projects. So if you have a good project, you can get selected, get rewarded up to, its the price is totally 10 million. The total price is no one person is going to get 10 million, but rewards totaling. So you have an opportunity. Somebody will finance you for this, provided you have a good idea, a workable idea. It's not just some idea in the air. Okay. So go on and on. I can share this article for you. You can read it in detail. But the idea is to tell you that yes, Dubai is ready and open to, not only Dubai, the whole of UAE is ready to accept and welcome innovators. Okay. Here is the link. If anybody is interested, dubaifuture.ae/Dubai/future-solutions. You can go straight on and submit your ideas there. Guidelines. Proposed solution was the efficient, cost-effective, versatile, and most importantly, ready for immediate implementation. We are not looking at dreams in the sky. We're looking at implementable ideas. This is just one example. There are many, many, many more examples where you have a proper business welcoming landscape to set up. You can set up your business in a matter of hours here. You can set up your business within a matter of hours. Office space is easily available. Electricity connection you will get in minutes. Telephone connection you will get in hours. Okay. So infrastructure is not a problem at all in the UAE. Right? Going a little bit back, as far back as June 2018, UAE was declared to be the most digital friendly country in the Middle East. So if you, in the digital age, if somewhere you have to be in the UAE. Okay, this was in 2018. Imagine the progress which has been made in these 3 years. What you need to do, if you want to succeed in UAE or anywhere else in the world, you need to get an action plan where you can put your ideas in action, and the country provides you an infrastructure which helps you put your ideas in action. Okay. All you have to do is map the right route, and the growth trajectory is there for you. If anybody has any questions, feel free to interrupt me and ask questions along the way if you have anything, or definitely we'll have time for questions in the end. Now coming to the nitty-gritty of it. And if I want to set up business, what is the landscape? So in UAE, you have two types of business entities. You have the mainland entity, which is the traditional business entity, and then you have the free zones. So there are more than 40 free zones in the UAE. More than 40 free zones in the UAE. And new are coming up every day. Right? You need to be very careful. All these free zones facilitate business, but are businesses in their own right. So they are going to come and each of the free zone will come and do their own sale pitch. Come and open your business with me. Come and open your business with me. Some of them are actual free zones. Some of them are not actual free zones. You need to have a proper guide to be able to guide you to take the right decisions. For example, Dubai Airport free zone, Jebel Ali free zone. These are some of the oldest and premium free zones in the UAE. Dubai International Financial Center, Khalifa Free Zone Authority, Rakesh, DMCC, Al Quwain. These are all very good free zones. I've also included something known as IFZA. Okay, they call themselves International Free Zone Authority. They used to call themselves International Free Zone Authority, but now they only call themselves IFZA. This is not a true free zone. These IFZA people are people who work under the Dubai Silicon Oasis, which obviously it's a very genuine area and it's a very genuine place to do business. But IFZA is only a brand name which works under Dubai Silicon Oasis. So please do your due diligence, and internationally, because UAE is such an easy place to do business, there are a lot of people who are using words to trick you into thinking that this is the genuine government entity, and it is not, and then you get shortchanged. Some of the free zones are specific, like Shams. This Shams is Sharjah Media City, specific to media, but now they have also started giving other businesses. Dubai South was specific to commodity, cargo business, but now they have started giving to others. So type of business that you want to do, based on that, select the free zone. Don't just get taken in by the sales pitch which these people are giving. Have a good advisor to advise you that what is the choice of free zone you should do, and then choose the right free zone. All of them are good. I'm not saying there are a few which are, better than the others, and some which are not so good. But then what you need is, you need to choose the free zone which is right for you. Some people need an office, some people don't need an office, some people need a storage space. Based on that, you need to take a call. Besides the free zones, there is the mainland. In the mainland, in each emirate, I explained to you there's 7 emirates. So each emirate has something known as an economic department. So the economic department regulates the issuing of licenses under the mainland. I've given you 3 examples here. In Dubai, the economic department is called Dubai Economy. In Sharjah, it's called Sharjah Economic Development Department. In Abu Dhabi, it is called Department of Economic Development. Right? Likewise, there are departments in all the other emirates also. Now, you need to understand what is the difference between the mainland and the free zone companies. What do you mean by free zone? In the mainland, what happens is that it is required, and to safeguard the national interest, they have said that if you have a company in the mainland, you need to have something known as a local sponsor. Local sponsor is something which is used in colloquial terms. Actually, it means that you need to have a UAE national as your partner. So suppose, or the UAE national has to be there as a service agent. But now with the increased liberalization which is happening, even in the mainland, they have permitted 100% ownership for expatriates. So to that extent, the difference between the mainland and the free zone has now become lesser. That you don't need to have, it's not for all the activities, for certain activities, if your activity qualifies, and there are lots and lots of activities, there's more than 200 plus activities which are there, which qualify for 100% foreign ownership. There is no capital requirement. You can have a capital of $100 and start your business. Of course, we don't advise you to do that. You should have a sufficient capital to start the business, but there's no capital requirement. Some of the free zones have a capital requirement. In the mainland, there's no capital requirement. You can start your business with whatever capital. If you are within the activity which is permitted, you can have a 100% expatriate owned business also. Certain activities, you require a local sponsor. So based on the activity, in some activities, the local sponsor has to be your partner. In some activities, the local sponsor only has to be a service agent. Where the local is as a partner, usually people have another side agreement, which is legally executed, okay, where the local partner effectively says that I am holding these shares on your behalf, and you actually own, you are actually the 100% owner, and he gives full ownership to the expatriate partner. So that also, there are legal ways to safeguard this, that you don't need to really have a local partner who is 51% or 30% or whatever as the law requires of your business. He will be there in the license, but there are ways to manage that through legal routes. Some people, when you come to set up your business, they'll say, okay, we'll make a side agreement for you where it's just written on a piece of paper. That side agreement will not be notarized. It is not legally valid. There are such side agreements which can be made, which are legally valid. You should ask, if anybody asks you that, will this side agreement be notarized? And they say, no, it will not be notarized and it's not legally valid. Don't go for that side. Okay. But besides that, if you are looking to start business in the UAE, they are very good. UAE nationals are good businessmen. You could even look at actually having a UAE national as your actual partner. And besides contributing, they would bring in the expertise, they would bring in the local connections, and they would be a positive addition to your business. In the free zone, the biggest advantage, this 100% ownership rule is just about 6 months old. Before that, there was no 100% ownership. If you had a company in the mainland, it needed to be 51% owned by a UAE national, and 49% the expatriate could be there. So that's why people used to go to the free zones, because you could have 100% expatriate ownership there. So that is still there. But besides that, what you get in the free zone is you get a 50-year tax holiday. You will not have any corporate taxation for 50 years. For that matter, there is no corporate taxation in UAE anyway. So that's not a very big advantage. But the writing on the wall says that maybe a few years down the line in the mainland companies, corporate taxation would come in after a few years. So in that case, if you're in free zone, you have a tax holiday for, at least 45 years. Suppose that the rule comes after 5 years. So that's the drill. When you go into the free zones, different free zones have different requirements. Some will ask you to submit a business plan. Some will ask you to submit your proof of funds in your home country, etc., and you can start your business. Most free zones have a requirement that you must submit an audit report every year to get your license renewed. In the mainland, there is no such requirement of submitting audit report to get your license renewed. This is the main difference between free zones and mainlands. Okay, and you have to understand there are two types of free zones. Some free zones are fenced free zones. They are within a specific border, and some of the free zones are not fenced. They are just in the middle of the city. So the fenced free zones are effectively considered out of the customs zone of the UAE. So if you are in a fenced free zone and you import goods, you don't have to pay customs duty on it. You need to pay customs duty only when you actually bring them out of the free zone into the main. So if you are a business which is doing a lot of international trade and you're going to get goods into the UAE and immediately ship them outside, it would be a good idea for you to be in a fenced free zone where you don't need to pay the customs duty on the goods which you import. Right? Any questions? Shall I go ahead? So this is the main difference, the main two types of legal entities which you can set up in UAE, the mainland and the free zone. Besides this, there are two free zones, Rakez, three free zones, Rakez, Ajman free zone and Jafza, which also issue offshore licenses. Now, offshore licenses, they are like a BVQI company, etc. So if you are looking at setting up a holding company or investment company for offshore purposes, that is also something that you can do in the UAE, right? But of course, for that, you will not have a physical presence here. You will not get a residence visa. So it's like any other offshore company which you set up. So that option also is available here in the UAE. Once you set up your business, you will obviously have employees. You need to understand that how your employer-employee relationship, how that will be structured is very important for you to understand. The UAE labor law, okay, is regulated by the Ministry of Human Resources and Emiratization. Okay, there is a large, see the name of the ministry is Ministry of Human Resources and Emiratization. So the ministry's aim is that you should employ more and more Emirati locals, the UAE nationals in your company. But you saw the population ratio, right? That the UAE nationals are only 12%, the expatriates are 88%. So you at the most you will be required to employ 5% or 10% of your employees as UAE nationals. That also if you're a larger company. For smaller companies, there is no such law as of now. The labor law in the UAE is heavily based on the decades-old French law. And since it is based on the French labor law, it is very, very much in favor of the employee. The labor law favors the employee rather than the employer. So as an employer, if you are going to set up a business, be very careful of how you draft the contract with your employees so that they don't take undue advantage of the law, which is basically in their favor. Besides that, there's something known as the wages protection system, which ensures that all employers pay their employees on time. So when they pay the employees the salary, the law requires that they have to pay the employees the salary before the 10th of the following month, and they have to pay it through the central bank. And if they fail to pay it, the defaulting employer will be fined by the government. So this is an excellent system to safeguard labor rights, where they ensure that on a monthly basis, employers are paying their employees, right? Going ahead, a very, very important pillar of your business is going to be your banking relationship. Earlier, people used to come to the UAE to do business because there is no taxation. Still, there is no taxation. Okay, there is no corporate taxation, but indirect, the other type of taxation like VAT, excise, that has come since 2000. Excise has come in 2017. VAT has come in 2018. Banking, once upon a time, if I go back 5 years back, if I wanted to set up a business in the UAE, it would take me 10 days, 15 days, a month. I could open a bank account within a day. Now the business opening mechanism has become very fast. I can open a business in a day. I can start a business in a day. It takes much more longer to open a bank account. Because the Central Bank of the UAE and the UAE government are a signatory to all the United Nations conventions to regulate money laundering. And because of, so you have Basel, you have so many regulations to counter money laundering, which now the UAE is a signatory to, and now they have brought in a very tough AML regulations, anti-money laundering regulations. So all the banks, these are few of the common banks: Emirates NBD, Abu Dhabi Commercial Bank, Dubai Islamic Bank, RAK Bank, Mashreq, First Abu Dhabi Bank, Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank, and there are many, many more banks. There, the international banks also are there. HSBC is there, Standard Chartered is there. All these banks are here in the UAE, and all the banks are very, very well and very professionally run over here. Okay. Commercial Bank of Dubai, United Arab Bank, United Arab Bank, you name it, and the banks are there. But because of the central bank regulations and the stringency of AML regulations, it would take sometimes at least 2 weeks to 6 weeks to open a corporate bank account or a personal bank account in the UAE. So before you open a business, please be sure that you can open a bank account. Otherwise, I have seen so many people who have opened a company and they were unable to open the bank account because they could not meet the bank's compliance norms. Normally, when people come to us to incorporate a company, we tell them, first go to your bankers, tell them that I will be incorporating a company like this. Will you open a bank account for me? I have seen many people who go to, fly-by-night operators say, okay, I will incorporate your company just for $2,000. I will incorporate the company. And then they spend just $2,000, and those are complete waste, because it's that license which they have got is only worth the paper it is printed on, or it's not even worth the paper it is printed on, because they cannot open a bank account. Because the banks have requirements that you need to have a physical office, or you need to have a physical residence here. If you have a virtual office, they will not open a bank account for. If you are not able to show proper source of funds from your home country, they will not open the bank account for you. So before you open your business, and even while you're operating your business, please keep in mind that international anti-money laundering regulations are now applicable in the UAE. Even if the bank opens your account and you have too many cash dealings or you have too many third-party transactions coming into your account, they will without notice close your account. So the know your customer requirements of the banks have become very, very stringent in the UAE, which is in the long run, I take it very, very good for the economy, because you will have genuine players in the who really want to, who really mean business, not people who have just come to, rotate their money around. Taxes. Once upon a time, people used to say UAE is a tax-free country. No more so. Okay. The Federal Tax Authority has been established. There is VAT, there is excise tax in the UAE. Okay. So value-added tax is there, excise is there on a selected goods, which are basically alcoholic drinks, tobacco, and sugary drinks. Basically, whatever drinks you have, which are sugary drinks, whether it's Coke, Pepsi, or it's not drinks, all sugar drinks are subject to excise, right? So basically, excise, if you come to the UAE, is there to make you healthy. Don't have alcohol, don't have tobacco, and don't have sugary drinks. Keep safeguard your health. If you want to not safeguard your health, you pay for it. The excise tax is fairly high. For the alcohol products, it's 100%, and for others, it is 50%. The value-added tax in the UAE is as a rate of 5%, and it is applicable on almost all the goods. There are few goods and services which are exempt and zero rated. Everything is subject to VAT. So when you buy things, we have to pay 5% extra. And obviously, if you set up a business and you are dealing in any goods which are not exempt for VAT, you will have to register your business for VAT. If you're dealing in any of these sugary drinks or tobacco or alcohol, then you will have to register your business for excise also. Besides these direct taxation mechanisms, there also is the economic substance regulation and the country by country reporting laws which have come in the UAE since the last 2 years. The economic substance regulation is targeted at avoiding shell companies because everybody knows that UAE is a tax haven, there is no corporate tax here. So it is to avoid people who just set up shell companies to divert and to book their income in the UAE and avoid taxation in the home countries. So the economic substance regulation is very much there. So it's to avoid people from setting up shell companies. You may set up a company, but then in the long run, if you cannot prove that you have an economic substance in the UAE, they will force you to close down the company. You also have country by country reporting mechanism, which is there in so many countries of the world, and it's very applicable for multinational companies, where they have to give a complete country by country reporting as regards their multinational holdings, right? So things once upon a long time ago, and many people are still cannot accept that things have changed. Once upon a time, people used to come that UAE is a country where there is no reporting, there is no taxation, customs duty, of course, were always there. And I can do things how I want. It's a free economy. UAE still is a free economy, but it's a free economy which has got very stringent and very relevant regulations from the government to ensure that the unethical practices and unethical practitioners do not take undue advantage of this free to work economy. So there are restrictions. You are free to work, do your genuine business, but within the parameters, within the restrictions which has been given to you. When you set up business in the UAE, one very, very important aspect, and I have seen many people giving consultancy on how to set up business, but this part nobody covers. Because when you give, and this part, remember this part, this is important for you not only when you are doing business in the UAE, it is also important for you when you are doing business with the UAE. Please be very, very careful before you give anybody business credit in the UAE. The UAE is an expatriate oriented country. It is quite likely that that guy will just catch the next flight, go away without paying you. And then you keep on tracing him. So the credit, know your customer, give your customer credit only when you know that customer well. I would advise don't give credit at all, deal in cash. So credit control, having a proper credit control policy when you set up your company in the UAE is very, very important. I can speak for 2 hours just on credit control, but that's not the topic for the day. It's just to highlight put that in your mind that whether you're doing business in the UAE or you're doing business with the UAE, please take your due diligence as far as the customer is concerned and only then deal with them. If you're giving goods on credit, although the best way is to deal to the bank, establish a letter of credit, do it through a realization route. There are so many ways which you can do the trade. Remember, in the UAE, if checks bounce, you can be imprisoned. Check bouncing is a criminal offense in the UAE. This was a big impediment to business. So this law has now been revoked, that the check bouncing is no longer a criminal offense. It will remain a civil offense. Okay, but that will become applicable only from 2022. So till January 2022, still if anybody has given you a check and the check bounces, you can put him behind bars. Okay, provided you have all the documentation to prove that why you had that check and why the check bounced. Okay, very important thing if you're setting up business anywhere in the world is to understand the ecosystem, understand the supply chain of the UAE. Okay, the UAE is a very, very consumer friendly and consumer driven economy. They encourage you to spend. There are shopping malls, there are restaurants, there are movie theaters, there are parks, there are amusement parks, there are game parks, you name it. Okay, the construction industry is very, very strong here. Okay, the logistics industry, the food industry is coming up very well. Okay, food processing industry was always very strong. Now vertical farming and all that is there, and logistics industry is obviously very strong. Tourism is there. So you need to understand the supply chain, understand the ecosystem before you start doing business here. Understand that the UAE is part of the Gulf Cooperation Council, which consists of 6 countries: Saudi Arabia, Oman, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, and the UAE. So these countries, it's sort of like the EU, like the European Union. They have a hello. Hello. Hello, I hope you can hear me now. I'm sorry, there was some issue with the connection. So I have to log in. I had to log in from another device. So carrying on where we left off, that credit control is a very, very important part of doing business anywhere in the world, and more so in the UAE because the large amount of expatriate population which you have there. Understand also that the UAE is an international trade hub. Now, being an international trade hub, there's a lot of awareness.
Please. You need to share your screen, please. Yeah, the screen is not, because I have some issue with the laptop. So I am not. I tried with the laptop also. I'm not able to log in from the laptop. I think
Okay.
there is some issue here. That's
Thank you. You can go ahead.
because I have almost reached the end of the presentation. So so the one important point which you need to understand is that it's an international trade hub. You need to have complete know-how about international trade rules and regulations. Incoterms, UCP, ISBP, what are there are innumerable rules and regulations issued by the International Chamber of Commerce. You need to have a very strong grip on that so that you can do business on the terms which you want and in a way which can be enforced in a court of law. Okay, there of course the commercial laws of the UAE are there which will apply, but when you are doing international business and there's a lot of international business happening in the UAE, these perspectives are very, very important for you to have. Along with this, what you need to understand is that the UAE is a place. The UAE is a place where there's no democracy. Okay, it's a hereditary. You know, it's like after father the son, or the uncle, or the they're royals. They're royals who rule the UAE, but it's a monarchy, but it's a very benevolent monarchy, and the rulers are genuinely loved by the people. The rulers freely interact with the population over here, and they have a genuine interest in the care of the people who are their citizens and who are the residents. The government is very, very performance driven. If you don't perform well, they will kick you out. So government servants are required to perform well. The rulers have made it the job of the government to make it easy to do business in the UAE. People who perform well are rewarded, and people who don't perform well are immediately sacked and removed and replaced. In fact, we have a different presentation which I've done earlier a couple of times, and we can do for you if the opportunity arises, on leadership lessons from the UAE, which gives very, very key insights on how this country works on a performance-based system. Okay, so this is very, very important to see that you have to understand they are part of the Gulf Cooperation Council. Those compulsions are there, and those benefits of those also are there. The rulers are so aligned to the needs of the people, and they all work in cohesion. They work as a team, and they are working towards the betterment of the country, and they are working towards the betterment of the country. So to say, it's a monarchy, but it's a very, very benevolent monarchy where the interest of the people are taken care of, the people are heard and actioned, and non-performers are openly, publicly berated and sacked. Very important lesson to remember. And I would like to end on this note that I had a beautiful slide, but I cannot. I don't know, for some reason I have been kicked out from that from the device. But all of you know that Expo 2020 is on. It started on the 1st of October, and it is on till 31st of March. We invite you to come and be part of the magic. Come, a unique opportunity to come to one place and see 192 nations in one place, in one complex where you have 3 sectors, and see the vision of the Expo. They have 3 districts: the sustainability district, the mobility district, and the opportunity district. The Nigerian pavilion is in the opportunity district. You are in the land of opportunity. So I would invite all of you Nigerians to come to the UAE, visit the Expo, interact with people from 192 countries, and of course meet me also. Don't go without meeting me. Okay, so if you go without meeting me, I'm going to pick a fight with Dr. Adebayo. Right? So we are here to welcome you, and we are here to host you. We are here to entertain you, and we are here to enlighten you, because if Dr. Adebayo brings you here, he's not going to bring you for a joy trip. He's going to bring you on a trip of education and enlightenment. So we look for, I hope what I shared with you was interesting. There's lots and lots. If I can talk about UAE, it's my pet subject. I can keep on talking. Here we have been talking from the business perspective. Once people do business, there are so many other things. There's the quality of life. You want to come and settle down, the quality of life here is excellent. The education for your children is excellent. There are so many people from different parts of the world who are now making the UAE an education destination. The advantage of the UAE is that if some people have an issue, okay, if I'm going to send my children to the UK or the UAE, to the USA or UK, they are going to have a cultural, a cultural shock. It's going to be culturally totally different, totally westernized country. But that's the advantage which you have in a country like the UAE. You don't get a culture shock. You have people from your country staying here. Every expatriate community has their own gatherings, have their own, and everybody is living on their own way. You don't blend into things. You maintain your identity and you interact with others. So it's a sort of mini United Nations here in the UAE. Come here for business, come here for education, and definitely come here for the expo. Okay, so we are ready to welcome you here with open arms. And if you have any questions about the topic which I spoke about today, please shoot. Any questions? So there is total silence from the other side. So when there are no questions, it becomes a position of a dilemma for me, So either we have that everything was understood or that nothing was understood. So I hope it is the former and not the second part. But I think the questions here is also maybe because of the connectivity issues. Maybe I don't know whether the mic is able to reach you or not. So if you have any questions now which you would like to ask me, please go ahead. Otherwise, my email address is very easy to remember. If you have anything to ask, you can simply email on ask@navigate.ae.
Thank you very much, Zaifa. We definitely have questions. Please, one more time, can we give him a round of applause? Thank you for that very insightful presentation. All right, we have time for 2 questions. And there's an online participant who has a question, so we'll make it 3. Yes. So in person here, we're going to take 2 questions and 1 from the online participant. If the online participant can hear us, please go ahead, shoot with your question right in the inbox. But I don't know, can we take 2 persons right here in the audience? 2 questions, perhaps related to this, or maybe not even directly related.
Business in the UAE.
Doing business, UAE, doing business generally. Do you have any persons who want to ask questions?
I think somebody in the chat has typed that I have a question. So I think if somebody who's there in the online, they want to ask a question, they can also do so.
All right. Yes, please, the online participant, please go ahead and ask your question.
Unmute you. Tell them to unmute online.
Online, please.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
My name is Tunde. Thank you very much for a wonderful presentation, sir. If you don't mind, just enlighten us a bit about acquiring businesses. And when I mean acquiring businesses, I mean an existing business, and
Yes.
also the process of winding up a business. You have a business running, you want to wind up.
Yes, excellent question, and very, very relevant question. So thank you for.
If you don't mind, can we just compile the questions? Let's ask again, just in case we have any other question from the participants here. Please, do we have any question? All right, so that would be the only question, Zaifa. Please go ahead and address it.
The question asked is that if I want to acquire a business, and mergers and acquisition is one of the most emerging industries. So if you are going to acquire a business in the UAE, what are the safeguards which you should take? They are the same safeguards which you would take in any other country, that yes, the company does not have any liabilities which you are taking over, hidden liabilities which are off the books, etc., etc. So obviously I'm not going to discuss things like, you know, that okay, ask the company to give the audited accounts, etc., etc. All those things are standard things which you would do. Here in the UAE, there is something known as the Etihad Credit Bureau, okay, which is the official credit rating agency of the UAE. So the first thing before you acquire any company, you should request for an Etihad Credit Bureau report. That Etihad Credit Bureau report will give you an idea that if there are any liabilities or anything which the company has, okay, if there are any liabilities, etc., which the company has, you will come to know about that from the Etihad Credit Bureau. So it will give you in one place all the liabilities, if there are any check returns, if there have been defaulters, all these issues you will be able to get. So it's a very essential part which you should take. Also, the audit report which you take, please ensure that it is from a reputed audit firm. Sometimes the audit profession here is not very strongly regulated. So sometimes some fly-by-night operator could give you a, you know, not a very scrupulous audit report. So make sure that you get an audit report from a reputed firm. Ideally, if you're getting that audit report, you should appoint that auditor so that the auditor looks at your interest and, you know, gives you a report in that respect. Besides that, of course, you can approach the banks, you can request them the bank statements, etc., etc. That's the entire drill which you can do. Okay. Now, another aspect which you need to also look at while you are doing the mergers and acquisitions is that the Etihad Credit Bureau report will give you the existing liabilities with the banks, etc. But suppose if this person has issued purchase orders and has accumulated liabilities because of those purchase orders, there will be no way of you for knowing that, right? So there is where the auditor comes in, and the auditor will be able to do a proper due diligence and advise you on that. Of course, you will do the other things like talking to the customers, suppliers, the neighbors, the other business associates, and find out about the company in general. So that is the things which you would do as far as mergers and acquisition is concerned. If it's a complicated acquisition, if it's a large acquisition, definitely you will appoint a proper law firm also to do the due diligence for you, and to check that, you know, an audit firm and a law firm to also check that that company has adhered to all the compliance requirements in the UAE. Because if they have not adhered to the compliance requirements and they have any government penalties pending on them, you know, you will ask them access for their, every company here has, if they are registered for excise or registered for VAT, they have an online portal, they have an online login for the tax authority. You will ask them for access to that online portal, and you will verify that if there are any tax liabilities, etc., there, that also you will have it checked, right? That is as far as acquisition is concerned. The cost of closing a business is, I would say, a little bit high in the UAE. Suppose if you will set up a company in the mainland, okay, and you want to wind up the business, it's going to cost you minimum of $2,000 to $3,000 to wind up the thing. And it's a process of 6 months. So the winding up process, this winding up process is there to ensure that people don't wind up companies and run away without paying their creditors. So this winding up process requires a level of due diligence, it requires an audit report, etc., etc., etc. For a small company, it would cost anything between $2,000 to $3,000, and it would require a process of at least 6 months, which involves giving a newspaper advertisement and other due diligence processes. In the free zone, the closure process also involves a period of 3 to 6 months, and the cost could be lesser there. It could be ranging from, depending on the free zone, it could range from $1,000 to up to, some of the free zones even $500, and then for the more prominent free zones, it could go higher. So I hope that answers your question. Anything else?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. A round of applause, please, for both our participator and the online participant. Mr. Tunde, the online participant, it's good to hear your voice. Thank you very much. You're always at the summit.